After 50, your brain is quietly transforming in ways that most people never notice. It's not slowing down. It's shifting into a new mode, one that can actually make you sharper, more focused, and emotionally smarter than ever before. Yet, the irony is that while this change is happening naturally, many adults unintentionally sabotage their own cognitive potential every single day. If you've ever felt your memory slipping, focus wavering, or your ability to handle stress diminishing, it's not necessarily because your brain is failing. On the contrary, these shifts are part of a natural reorganization. Your mind is adapting, rewiring, and prioritizing efficiency. Understanding this process is the first step toward harnessing it to your advantage. The mature brain operates differently from a younger one. After 50, it becomes more selective, filtering out distractions and focusing on what truly matters. This is a survival adaptation from evolution. Your mind learns to conserve energy while enhancing decision-making, emotional regulation, and long-term strategic thinking. Neuroplasticity, the ability of your brain to form new connections, doesn't disappear with age. In fact, it can be leveraged more effectively with the right daily practices. One critical aspect of this transformation is memory consolidation. While it may seem that older adults forget more easily, the brain is actually prioritizing which information to store. Daily experiences, habits, and emotional significance determine which neural pathways are strengthened. Sleep plays a pivotal role here. Deep sleep stages, which become fragmented with age, are when the brain reorganizes memories, clears metabolic waste, and reinforces synaptic connections. Disruptions in sleep can silently weaken this process, affecting both memory and focus. Another change occurs in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, planning, and emotional control. After midlife, this area becomes more dominant in guiding behavior, allowing adults to approach problems with greater wisdom, patience, and perspective. Emotional intelligence peaks during this period, giving older adults an advantage in navigating complex social environments, maintaining relationships, and managing stress. This is one reason why leadership, mentoring, and teaching roles often benefit from mature minds. Physical health is inseparable from cognitive health. Cardiovascular exercise increases blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and essential nutrients while stimulating neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons. Regular movement also triggers the release of neurotrophic factors, proteins that strengthen synaptic connections and protect existing neurons from degeneration. Diet plays an equally important role. Omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and polyphenols from fruits, vegetables, and certain nuts and fish combat inflammation and oxidative stress, two major culprits in cognitive decline. Hydration, moderate protein intake, and controlled blood sugar levels further enhance brain performance. Stress management becomes increasingly critical after 50. Chronic stress elevates cortisol levels, which can damage hippocampal neurons, impair memory, and disrupt focus. Learning to regulate stress through mindfulness, meditation, controlled breathing, or light physical activity can protect your brain and even enhance neuroplasticity. Social engagement also strengthens cognitive resilience. Maintaining meaningful connections, participating in group activities, and engaging in intellectually stimulating conversations promotes synaptic growth and enhance overall brain function. Cognitive exercises are another pillar of brain health. Tasks that challenge your memory, problem-solving abilities, and learning skills stimulate neurogenesis and reinforce existing neural networks. Even simple activities like learning a new language, playing a musical instrument, or practicing complex strategic games produce measurable changes in brain structure and connectivity. The key is consistency. The mature brain responds best to regular, targeted stimulation over time. Purpose-driven living profoundly influences brain resilience. Adults who have clear goals, responsibilities, and engagement in meaningful work show higher cognitive scores and slower age-related decline. The combination of physical activity, mental challenges, social engagement, and emotional purpose creates a robust environment for the brain to thrive. Your brain after 50 is not just surviving. It is actively rewiring itself to optimize performance, clarity, and emotional balance. Understanding these changes allows you to take deliberate action. Simple adjustments in sleep quality, diet, physical activity, cognitive training, and social connection can dramatically influence your brain's trajectory. The mature mind, when supported with intention, can outperform younger brains in critical thinking, emotional regulation, and long-term strategic insight. By embracing these natural changes and making informed lifestyle choices, you are not only protecting your cognitive function, but actively enhancing it. The potential for mental growth, emotional intelligence, and memory optimization is enormous, and it all starts with awareness and daily commitment. Your brain after 50 is capable of remarkable adaptation, and the actions you take today will determine how sharp, resilient, and vibrant it remains for decades to come. After 50, the brain enters a phase most people misunderstand completely. This is the stage where surface-level speed may decline slightly, but depth, pattern recognition, and long-term judgment quietly rise. The problem is not that the brain loses power, it's that society still measures intelligence using the wrong metrics. A younger brain is fast, reactive, and stimulus-driven. A mature brain becomes predictive. Instead of processing everything, it learns to ignore noise. This shift is subtle but profound. The brain begins to rely less on raw short-term memory and more on accumulated experience, stored frameworks, and emotional context. This is why older adults often feel the right decision before they can logically explain it. Inside the brain, white matter connectivity starts to change. White matter acts like high-speed cables connecting different brain regions. While some pathways slow down, others become more efficient. The brain essentially reroutes traffic. Less important connections weaken. High-value pathways, those used for reasoning, emotional regulation, and complex understanding, become stronger and more synchronized. This is also the period when the brain becomes extremely sensitive to lifestyle signals. It begins responding more strongly to what you repeat daily. Repeated stress reinforces stress circuits. Repeated curiosity strengthens learning circuits. Repeated inactivity signals the brain that optimization is no longer required. In other words, after 50, your habits speak louder to your brain than your intentions. One of the most important internal changes happens in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. Contrary to popular belief, the hippocampus does not simply shrink and fail. It adapts. It becomes more selective about memory storage. Random information is discarded quickly. Emotionally relevant, meaningful, or frequently used information is retained deeply. This explains a common frustration. You might forget names or trivial details, yet remember complex life events, patterns, and insights with surprising clarity. The brain is not forgetting more. It is filtering harder. Another transformation occurs in dopamine signaling. Dopamine is not just a pleasure chemical, it is a motivation and learning signal. After 50%, baseline dopamine levels gradually decline. This does not mean motivation disappears. It means motivation becomes purpose-dependent. Shallow stimulation stops working. Deep meaning becomes essential. This is why forced routines feel exhausting, but meaningful work feels energizing. The brain is demanding relevance. When you align tasks with purpose, dopamine signaling stabilizes and cognitive energy increases. This also explains why many people experience mental fog during this phase. It is not always biological decline. It is often mental misalignment. The brain is no longer willing to run outdated software. Stress, however, can disrupt this adaptive phase. Chronic stress keeps the brain in survival mode. Elevated cortisol interferes with memory formation, emotional balance, and neural repair. Over time, this stress noise drowns out the brain's natural optimization process. What protects the brain here is regulation, not avoidance. Learning how to calm the nervous system becomes as important as learning new information. Slow breathing, rhythmic movement, time in natural environments, and deep focus activities all signal safety to the brain. Once safety is restored, learning capacity returns. Another key shift involves emotional processing. The amygdala, responsible for emotional reactions, becomes less reactive with age when stress is managed. This allows older adults to respond instead of react. Emotional intelligence peaks during this phase because the brain learns emotional patterns the same way it learns skills. This is why mature minds often handle conflict better, see through manipulation faster, and remain calm in situations that overwhelm younger individuals. The brain is no longer chasing novelty, it is reading reality. Sleep architecture also changes significantly. Deep sleep becomes lighter, but the brain compensates by improving efficiency, if supported. Poor sleep hygiene, irregular schedules, or late-night stimulation can severely disrupt this compensation. When sleep quality drops, memory, focus, and emotional stability decline sharply. However, when sleep is protected, the mature brain performs exceptional internal maintenance. During rest, waste products are cleared, neural connections are refined, and emotional memories are recalibrated. This nightly reset becomes essential after 50. The brain also becomes more sensitive to inflammation. Poor diet, lack of movement, and chronic stress increase inflammatory signals that directly impair cognitive clarity. Anti-inflammatory nutrition, hydration, and consistent physical activity act as cognitive protectors. What's fascinating is how quickly the brain responds to positive changes. Even after decades of neglect, neuroplasticity remains active. New routines can reawaken learning circuits within weeks. Cognitive stagnation is not permanent. It is reversible when the right signals are sent. Social interaction plays a powerful role here. Meaningful conversations stimulate multiple brain regions simultaneously. They enhance memory, emotional regulation, and language processing. Isolation, on the other hand, accelerates cognitive decline faster than aging itself. The mature brain thrives on depth, not volume. Fewer relationships, deeper bonds, fewer tasks, clearer priorities, less noise, more meaning. This is the hidden advantage of the brain after 50. It is no longer built for chaos. It is built for clarity. When you understand this, everything changes. You stop fighting the brain's evolution and start working with it. You shift from trying to stay young to becoming mentally powerful. The brain is not fading. It is refining, and those who learn how to support this refinement unlock a level of focus, wisdom, and emotional control that most people never experience. One of the most misunderstood experiences after 50 is the feeling that learning has become harder. People assume the brain has lost its ability to absorb new information. In reality, the mechanism of learning changes, and most people never adjust their approach. A younger brain learns through repetition and speed. It absorbs information quickly, then if the meaning is shallow. The mature brain learns through relevance and integration. It asks one silent question before committing energy: why does this matter? If that question is unanswered, the brain resists, not because it is weak, but because it has become efficient. This is why traditional learning methods feel frustrating later in life. Memorization without context fails. Passive consumption doesn't stick. But when information connects to real-life application, emotional meaning, or personal goals, learning becomes powerful again, sometimes stronger than ever. Inside the brain, this shift is driven by changes in the prefrontal cortex. This region, responsible for planning, reasoning, and judgment, becomes more dominant with age. It starts overriding impulsive learning circuits. The brain is no longer interested in collecting facts. It wants understanding. This is also why older adults often learn complex topics faster than beginners expect. Once engagement is triggered, the brain rapidly connects new information to existing mental frameworks built over decades. Learning becomes layered, not linear. Another major internal shift involves attention. After 50, the brain's attentional spotlight narrows, but sharpens. Multitasking becomes less effective, but deep focus improves. When distractions are removed, concentration can exceed that of much younger minds. The problem is that modern environments constantly punish deep focus. Notifications, noise, fragmented schedules, all disrupt the mature brain more intensely than a young one. This creates the illusion of cognitive decline when the real issue is environmental mismatch. When the environment is simplified, the brain rebounds quickly. Memory also undergoes a critical transformation. Short-term recall becomes less reliable, but long-term consolidation strengthens. The brain prioritizes meaning over immediacy. This is why stories, insights, and emotionally charged information are remembered effortlessly, while random details slip away. This is not a flaw, it is a filtering upgrade. Neuroscientists call this selective optimization. The brain conserves energy by investing only in information that aligns with identity, purpose, or survival relevance. If something feels meaningless, the brain quietly refuses to store it. This is why anxiety around memory can worsen performance. Stress signals danger. The brain diverts resources away from memory storage toward survival systems. The more you worry about forgetting, the more likely forgetting becomes. Confidence calms the brain. Calm restores memory. Another powerful change occurs in emotional processing. Emotional memory becomes more refined. The brain remembers less emotional noise and more emotional truth. Patterns of people, behavior, and outcomes become easier to detect. This is why intuition strengthens after 50. It is not mystical, it is statistical learning over time. The brain has seen enough repetitions to predict outcomes accurately. However, this advantage only emerges when emotional regulation is intact. Unresolved emotional stress keeps the brain locked in past loops, preventing pattern recognition. Healing emotional overload is not just psychological, it is cognitive maintenance. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, does not disappear after 50. It becomes conditional. The brain rewires when it senses necessity. Challenge without overwhelm activates growth. Comfort without stimulation triggers decline. This is why mild discomfort is essential for cognitive health. Learning a new skill, navigating unfamiliar environments, engaging in challenging conversations, these activities send a clear signal to the brain: stay adaptable. Physical movement plays a hidden but crucial role here. Movement increases blood flow, oxygen delivery, and growth factors like BDNF, a protein essential for learning and memory. After 50, the brain becomes more dependent on these signs. Sedentary habits accelerate cognitive decline not because of age, but because of signal deprivation. Even walking regularly can dramatically improve cognitive clarity. Another internal factor is glucose regulation. The brain relies heavily on glucose for energy. After midlife, insulin sensitivity often declines. When glucose delivery becomes inefficient, mental fatigue and brain fog appear. This is often misinterpreted as aging, when it is actually metabolic mismanagement. Stable nutrition stabilizes cognition. The brain also becomes more honest after 50. It stops compensating for abuse. Poor sleep, chronic stress, emotional suppression, and mental neglect show consequences faster. But the reverse is also true. Supportive habits produce noticeable improvements quickly. This responsiveness is a gift. One of the most overlooked elements is identity. The brain aligns itself with who you believe you are. If you internalize the belief that decline is inevitable, the brain adapts downward. If you see yourself as capable of growth, learning, and relevance, the brain maintains those circuits. Belief is not motivation, it is instruction. This is why environments matter. Conversations that reinforce curiosity, purpose, and competence stimulate cognitive resilience. Environments that reinforce fear, uselessness, or stagnation weaken it. The brain after 50 is not fragile, it is selective. It invests where value exists. And here is the most important truth. The brain does not age on a timeline. It ages based on signals. Signals from your habits, signals from your emotions, signals from your environment, signals from how you think about yourself. Change the signals, and the trajectory changes. The brain you have after 50 is not a downgrade, it is a precision instrument. Those who understand this stop chasing youth and start building mastery. By the time people reach their 50s, two very different brain trajectories begin to separate. Even if outwardly they look the same, one path leads to gradual cognitive dulling, emotional rigidity, and shrinking mental range. The other leads to sharper judgment, deeper insight, and a calmer, more powerful mind. Chronological age does not decide this split. Signals do. The brain constantly measures its environment and asks one silent question. Is this a place where I still need to adapt, or can I shut systems down? When the answer leans towards safety without challenge, the brain conserves energy. Neural circuits that are not used begin to weaken. This is not punishment, it is efficiency. But when the brain senses novelty, responsibility, meaning, or contribution, it stays online. Growth systems remain active. This is why retirement affects people so differently. Some experience rapid mental decline. Others experience mental clarity they never had before. The difference is not work, it is engagement. The brain does not care about jobs, it cares about relevance. One of the most dangerous signals after 50 is predictability without purpose. Repeating the same days, the same conversations, the same mental inputs tells the brain there is nothing left to map. Exploration shuts down. Curiosity is not a personality trait, it is a survival signal. Another critical factor is emotional load. Many people carry unresolved stress, disappointment, regret, or suppressed emotion into midlife. The brain stores these as unfinished loops. Each loop consumes cognitive energy. This creates background fatigue that feels like mental aging. When emotional processing is incomplete, the brain stays partially stuck in the past. Attention weakens, memory becomes noisy, decision-making slows, not because the brain is old, but because it is overloaded. Reducing emotional clutter often restores mental sharpness faster than any cognitive exercise. Sleep architecture also changes after 50%, but not in the way people think. Total sleep may decrease slightly, but sleep quality becomes far more important. Deep sleep and REM sleep, the phases responsible for memory consolidation and emotional regulation, become more sensitive to disruption. Late-night screens, irregular schedules, and chronic stress have a stronger cognitive cost than they did earlier in life. The brain after 50 demands respect. Social signals matter more than ever. The brain is a social organ. Isolation weakens neural networks involved in language, empathy, and executive function. But shallow socialization is not enough. Meaningful interaction is the key. Conversations that involve reflection, debate, storytelling, or shared purpose stimulate multiple brain regions at once. Small talk alone does not. This is why some people feel mentally sharper after a deep conversation than after hours of rest. Another hidden driver is decision-making autonomy. When people feel they no longer control their time, choices, or direction, the brain reduces initiative. Motivation circuits downregulate. Learning slows. Autonomy keeps the brain alive. Physical health signals also play a larger role than before. Cardiovascular health directly affects cerebral blood flow. Even small declines in circulation reduce oxygen and nutrient delivery to the brain. The result is slower processing and reduced clarity. This is not aging. It is infrastructure, movement, especially rhythmic movement like walking, swimming, or cycling, sends powerful maintenance signals to the brain. These activities activate networks involved in balance, memory, and coordination simultaneously. The brain responds quickly to these signals. Often within weeks, one of the most misunderstood changes after 50 is mental speed. Reaction time may slow slightly, but accuracy often improves. The brain trades speed for precision. This is why older adults often make better decisions under pressure, if they are allowed time. Modern culture rewards speed. The mature brain rewards correctness. When people force themselves to compete on speed alone, they misjudge their own capacity. When they lean into precision, pattern recognition, and judgment, their advantage becomes obvious. Another major determinant is identity reinforcement. If society sends constant messages that life after 50 is decline, the brain internalizes that narrative. Neural investment follows belief. But when people remain learners, contributors, mentors, or creators, the brain maintains those roles neurologically. Purpose is not abstract, it is biological. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most cognitive decline after 50 is not caused by age. It is caused by signal withdrawal, less challenge, less novelty, less responsibility, less meaning, less belief. Restore those signals. And the brain responds. The mature brain is not fragile. It is adaptive, selective, and powerful. Those who understand this stop fearing decline. They start designing their mental environment intentionally. And once that shift happens, the brain does something remarkable. It stabilizes, not at youth level, at mastery level. By the time the brain reaches midlife, it has completed its most important phase. It has collected patterns. It has survived complexity. It has learned consequences. What comes next is not decay. It is selection. The brain no longer tries to process everything. It filters. It prioritizes. It chooses meaning over noise. This is why older adults often say they feel mentally calmer even when life is harder. The brain has stopped chasing stimulation. It is searching for coherence. This shift changes how intelligence works. Before, midlife intelligence is reactive. Fast learning, fast forgetting, high energy, low precision. After, midlife intelligence becomes strategic, slower intake, deeper integration, higher accuracy, longer retention. The problem is that most people misinterpret this shift. They feel slower and assume they are weaker. They compare themselves to younger minds that are optimized for speed. That comparison is false. The mature brain is optimized for judgment. Judgment is the highest form of intelligence. It integrates emotion, memory, logic, and consequence. It prevents mistakes rather than reacting to them. This is why experienced leaders often outperform younger ones under pressure. Not because they think faster, because they think better. The danger comes when people stop trusting their own cognition, when they withdraw from decision-making, when they avoid challenge, when they hand over thinking to routines and screens. The brain responds immediately to disengagement. Neural investment drops, curiosity fades, confidence weakens. This creates the illusion of decline. But the opposite is also true. When the brain senses relevance, it stays alert. When it senses contribution, it stays flexible. When it senses purpose, it stays resilient. Purpose is not motivation. Purpose is direction. A brain without direction conserves energy. A brain with direction allocates resources. That allocation determines long-term cognitive health. This is why people who remain mentally active through mentoring, learning, teaching, or creating often show slower cognitive aging than those who do not. Not because of intelligence, because of engagement. Another critical factor is emotional mastery. The mature brain has a unique advantage. It can regulate emotion more efficiently. Younger brains feel emotions more intensely. Older brains process them more intelligently. This reduces impulsivity, improves focus, strengthens long-term planning, unless emotional suppression replaces emotional regulation. Unprocessed emotion is one of the fastest ways to exhaust the brain. Processed emotion frees capacity. This is why reflection, journaling, conversation, and self-awareness matter more after 50 than before. They are not therapy, they are maintenance. The brain also becomes more sensitive to meaning than reward. Money, status, and approval lose their motivational power. Contribution, clarity, and alignment replace them. When people chase rewards that no longer stimulate their brain, they feel empty, fatigued, disconnected. When they align with meaning, energy returns. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. The reward system changes, the value system deepens. Another powerful truth. The brain after 50 becomes highly plastic in response to identity. If a person believes they are declining, the brain follows that map. If a person believes they are evolving, the brain reorganizes to support that identity. Belief is not optimism, it is instruction. The brain obeys expectation. This is why labels matter, words matter, narratives matter. The story you tell yourself about your brain becomes the operating system it runs. Finally, there is this. The brain does not age in isolation, it ages in context. Context includes environment, relationships, movement, rest, challenge, meaning. Change the context and the brain adapts, not slowly, but continuously. The greatest mistake people make after 50 is assuming it is too late to influence their brain. It is not. In many ways, it is the first time the brain is ready for wisdom over speed, depth over noise, precision over reaction. This is not decline. This is transition. Those who resist it feel loss. Those who understand it gain power. Your brain is not shutting down. It is refining itself. If you respect that process, support it, and engage with it intentionally, the brain after 50 can become the strongest, most stable, and most intelligent version you have ever had. This channel exists for one reason: to protect that potential. If this helped you understand your brain in a new way, subscribe to Smart Brain Senior, because the second half of life deserves a smarter brain, not a smaller one.